Well, good afternoon. This is Houndog Steve wishing you a very pleasant afternoon. And here we are, caught again, once again in the rain. So I've been reading the new Druthers issue. And I'm actually going to put a link to the Druthers website down below so you can read all of the current and back issues that they put out. This is an unbelievable little publication, and they have got some incredible writers doing some incredible research on the things that are taking place around us today. And the part I was reading, which actually I was completely engrossed in, was the Absurdity Observer. And this is a list of a whole bunch of absurd things that have taken place in the last little while. And as I read through these, now what I'm going to suggest first that you do, okay, is that you sit down, get yourself a cup of tea, smoke something, cigarette, whatever it is, have a good stiff drink to calm your nerves, because when I have finished, you will be as outraged as I am at the misspending, the misappropriation, the staggering lack of morality and integrity and honesty that is taking place not only within our own government but within our medical institutions. Most of these people are unelected, I might add. Most of these people are unelected, and they are paid the most magnificent wages and benefits which will go on till the end of their lives. And these are incomes that you and I can only dream about. And all of this is done against a backdrop of people losing their homes. I saw a story the other day of a nurse who had to buy a van so she could live in it because she could not afford the rent, even on decent wages. And in fact, I read something the other day that if you want to live in Toronto, you have to be earning at least $80,000 a year. Yes, $80,000 a year just to lead not an eccentric but a meager lifestyle. You know, rents are closing in on, $1,500, $2,000, $2,500 a month. You know, that in itself is nearly $30,000 a year. Okay, just on rent. And when you think of food, heating, electricity, all of that kind of stuff to add on, yes, you can see why it costs that much, and yet pensions are under $20,000 a year. Okay, so let's just flip over and, like I say, sit down, calm yourself, take a heart pill, whatever it is you have to do, because you are going to be outraged, and you should be outraged. Okay, so let's just flip over. I'll read these and I'll come back and do a quick wrap up. Okie dokie, here we go. Okay, so here we are from Druthers, August 2023, the Absurdity Observer. Some of the most absurd things that have happened in recent weeks. The largest corporate welfare deal in Canadian history just went from bad to worse after it was announced in April that Volkswagen would receive $14 billion, now $16 billion, to build an electric car plant. Chrysler's parent company, Stellantis, threatened to stop building their plant and demanded the same deal. Cabinet just approved $15 billion to Stellantis and additional $2 billion to Volkswagen, amounting to more than $31 billion in corporate handouts for Ontario electric car plants in the past few months. And just for reference, $31 billion is the equivalent of giving $1 million to every household in the Yukon Territory and the Northwest Territories. An explosive preprint study published in the Lancet, McCullough et al. On July 6, titled A Systemic Review of Autopsy Findings in Deaths After CV Inoculation. And I just want to put in here that the Lancet is probably one of the most respected medical journals in the world. Okay, exposed direct statistical evidence of CV inoculations being a direct cause of death, driving excess mortality that we've witnessed. Since the government pushed inoculation campaign, the results showed that after surveying data from 325 autopsies in injected people, a total of 270 deaths, 73.9%, were independently adjudicated as directly due or significantly contributed to by the inoculation by the medical examiners of the cases. The review found that the primary organ system failure that caused death was the cardiovascular system, 53% of cases. The study's explosive findings ranked it as one of the most downloaded studies within 24 hours of publishing. After the paper began circulating widely online, the Lancet removed the study from its website, claiming the study conclusions lacked evidence. Fancy that. Health Canada claims CV deaths would have surpassed World War II casualties without lockdowns and inoculation mandates, without supplying any data to support their claim, of course. The supposed highest ever temperature recorded in European history, 48 degrees C, was not true. In mid-July, it was widely reported by corporate media that Sicily was a record-breaking 48 degrees C. In actuality, the temperature only reached 32 degrees C. The media took the European Space Agency's ground surface temperature and reported it as if the readings were taken as they normally are 2 meters above ground. The total cost of the federal government's wasteful CV spending, money either poorly targeted, will eclipse $110 billion by 2033, with $1 billion having already been wasted on expired inoculations and $21 billion going towards high debt interest costs, a Fraser Institute study finds. A charity that provides guidelines to healthcare professionals is asking medics to refer to a vagina as a bonus hole or front hole to avoid upsetting trans men. In a guide for healthcare professionals published online, Joe's Cervical Cancer Trust suggests using these terms to avoid causing one without a vagina to feel hurt or depressed. As of July 1st, federal employees and their families are now eligible to receive a $75,000 grant for, you read it, affirming surgeries. This can include everything from hair removal to invasive reassignment surgeries, such as a vaginoplasty and phalloplasty. Now, this is their families as well as the employees, I might add. Garnet Harper, a 35-year-old Ontario father of 5, has died after multiple hospitals refused him a kidney transplant because he wasn't inoculated against CV, and despite his family members offering to donate their own kidneys. Unbelievable. Almost as unbelievable as this. Bank of Canada officials earned $20 million in bonuses last year whilst hiking interest rates and failing their 2% inflation mandate. According to records obtained by the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, as inflation reached a 40-year high, 80% of the central bank's workforce received at least one bonus for their supposed job well done, with each bureaucrat receiving an average of $11,200 in bonuses. And if you think that was bad, Governor General Mary Simon spent $71,000 of taxpayer money on limousine services and $115,000 on hotels during a 4-day trip to Iceland with her husband and a team of 6 in October 2022. Absolutely unbelievable, and somebody quipped that she could have bought a brand new BMW for less than $71,000 and just left it at the airport when she came home, and we would have been ahead of the game. This example of exuberant spending obtained by the Canadian Taxpayers Federation through an access to information request is just the latest example of Simon billing taxpayers for her many expensive and lavish trips abroad to promote Canadian culture and literature abroad. A prior access to information request revealed that Governor General Simon had charged taxpayers $800,000 to go to Germany for a book fair and $1.5 million on a trip to Dubai. This is mind-boggling. How can you spend that much money on a trip? And those who are really pained by fact-checkers will just love this one. Court documents obtained during a defamation lawsuit have exposed the biased business of fact-checking. The agreement between the social media giant Meta and the site RMIT Fact Lab showed that Meta, or Facebook, paid the fact-checking site the equivalent of $1,052 Canadian per article. This agreement, believed to be worth about $500,000 annually, raises questions about the independence and motivations of the fact-checking organizations involved. The CDC has published guidance on chest feeding, a term used to describe feeding an infant milk directly from the breast by trans and non-binary parents. The CDC blurred the lines between politics and science, failing their responsibility to disclose the lack of research and potential health risks to babies. In a section called Health Equity Considerations, the CDC claims an individual does not need to have given birth to breastfeed or chest feed, and can use medication or induce lactation. These drugs are off-label, and the primary medication used to produce milk in biological men, the anti-nausea drug domperidone, has been linked to heart problems in babies. In an effort to make all children feel equal, the BC government, that's British Columbia, is abolishing letter grades for all public school students from kindergarten to grade 9. In lieu of grading with letters A through F, a proficiency scale will assess students as emerging, developing, proficient, or extending. Oh, and here we have the government-funded CBC paints the new hit film Sound of Freedom as being xenophobic, pro-Trump and pro-life, despite the movie not touching on any of these topics. The movie is based on a true story of one man's quest to save children from child traffickers. And this, of course, is just a stunning example of inclusion, isn't it? The University of Guelph Department of Sociology and Anthropology is looking to hire a new assistant professor, but eligible applicants must identify as black or indigenous. Now, any of you who are worried about CBDCs, this is, of course, just bringing all our fears right home, isn't it? In a disquieting discovery, the Brazilian central bank digital currency is reportedly designed with a feature enabling the government to freeze user funds and adjust balances. The revelation emerged after a prominent blockchain developer and founder of Iora Labs managed to decode the underlying technical details of the Brazilian CBDC. And last but not least, the total number of federal employees in Canada now stands at a staggering 357,247, nearly 40% higher than it was in 2015 when Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was first elected. Between 2015 and 2022, federal executives received $1.3 billion, that's with a B, in bonuses. The federal government does not publicise a sunshine list of employees making over $100,000 a year, but a report last summer by The Post puts that number at 114,443. This included 39,000 six-figure jobs added in 2021 alone. As if we didn't have enough of these parasitical, unelected creatures. So yes, staggering, isn't it? It's stunning, it is mind-blowing, it is over the top, it is over the edge, and it is completely underhanded. And the thing that I am amazed at, that I'm seeing or not seeing in society is this sense of outrage. This is outrageous behaviour. Whilst we're being driven into the ground, these people are spending like drunken sailors, and we should be outraged, and it is justifiable outrage. As I said before, it's a civil service. These people are unelected, so it's very, very hard to actually rectify the situation other than non-participation. Just refuse to go along with the program. If you're homeschooling, pull your kids out of school. Take away their funding. This was a great idea someone put across to me. If you're at that age where you've got school-age children and you can do it, pull your children out of school because the school will lose funding. Okay, and this is one way, the boycott. We found out actually recently how effective boycotts are. And that is what we need to start doing, is abandoning the system, boycotting the system wherever possible, making our own decisions, our own mechanisms to deal with the problems that we have to face on a day-to-day basis, and doing that through community building. And you will find out, I think you're going to see people wanting to come together in community as all of their resources run out and they have no other options. And once we start forming communities, once we start growing in numbers and strength, then we can start deciding how the world should run. But as long as we're dependent on these parasites, that is never, ever, ever going to happen. And so gather your courage together, gather your outrage, and walk away. Just walk away wherever possible. Be imaginative, come up with all kinds of innovative ideas that you can to bypass the system. Only come in contact with this system as infrequently as possible. Because we all know that as soon as you get involved with this system, it is just misery and heartache. And the other mind-blowing thing about this situation is, you know, I recently got a driver's license renewal. It cost me $90 to renew my driver's license. Now, the cost of creating that card, that piece of plastic that I carry around in my wallet, is probably around about $5, and I'm probably overpricing it at that. So they have charged me $85 in labor costs for 2 seconds to click that picture, press a button, and have the computer spit that out. And this is not the only thing. Everywhere you look, you know, not only are we paying taxes to pay these wages, but we are getting billed over and above those taxes. And just a little interesting side bar here. Your income tax. Do you know what? Do you know where your income tax goes? No? No answers? Okay. It goes to pay the debt, the interest on the debt that this government owes, a debt that I never asked them to go into. They took that debt on board, and that is all of your income taxes paid. They don't go to pay infrastructure or anything like that. That's what your harmonized sales tax, the HST, goes to pay for all of these services. The other big revenue collection mechanism the government has is the lotteries. Most of that goes towards hospitals and day-to-day things that they spend their money on. And like I say, they are wasting what little money that we do have. But yeah, your income tax just goes to pay the interest on the debt, nothing more. I mean, that is an incredible fact in and of itself. And then to be charging us over and above, okay, over and above what they already receive in pay, and all of the supplies and stocks, that all comes out of that money, and then to charge us on top of that is absolutely adding insult to injury. So please think about that, be outraged, and act where you can, and just withdraw compliance from this system wherever you are and however you can do that. Okay, well, I hope I've cheered up your Sunday for you with some of this information. But if you've enjoyed this video, please like, comment, subscribe below. And in the meantime, this is Houndog Steve, wishing you a very pleasant Sunday afternoon, and we'll talk very, very shortly. See you now. Take care. Bye.